and I were wearing yesterday.
We were twinsies.
We were twins yesterday. If you didn't check yesterday's show, you can go back and watch that on YouTube, or at least just check the thumbnail, and you'll see the hoodies we're wearing. Those you can only get through this giveaway.
That's right.
So go enter to win at ESPN1320.com. Again, the code word is WING, and that's from Monday's Kings game.
Yeah, and then I think the previous two winners were Tyler J. and Iggy.
And Iggy. Shout out to Tyler J. and Iggy. Salute.
Yeah, so they won. Hopefully you guys have checked your email and have found the email from our promotions team, who are amazing, and you guys are getting hooked up with your sweatshirts and $50 gift certificates.
Our guy Soren in the chat said, "Bad Christmas movies it is tonight, I guess, because there's no NBA games." Well, I think Cal UNLV play a bowl game.
Okay, so I do have a bone to pick with you about this Lindsay Lohan movie you made.
Oh, no. Okay.
Okay, so
we'll get to NBA Cup in a second, because the joke I was going to make was you could have done it last night because the NBA Cup game stunk. But you watched the Lindsay Lohan movie. Go on.
I did. I watched the Lindsay Lohan movie.
Our little secret.
Our little secret. And our little secret is that everybody in the entire movie is a cheating.
Oh, everyone in the movie is deplorable.
They're absolutely
nobody
not
to
good
root for.
people at all.
No one to root for in the movie.
No one to root for. And I got to be honest, it just happens to be a movie with a bunch of bad people that happens to be around Christmas. This is like, it's the Lindsay Lohan version of Die Hard. It is. It's like I'm waiting for this to be like, I'm waiting for it to be like centered around Christmas. They go get a Christmas tree. Okay, they didn't like even the Christmas tree scene. I think they clipped most of the cutting of the tree. It's like they come back and it's like, oh, you got such a beautiful tree.
Well, and they go to mass and then they're together because it is Christmas, and that's a big deal in the family.
I just think like everyone in the movie is sort of creepy.
Oh, everyone sucks.
It's just not
There's
nice.
not a single person to root for in the movie.
No. Even Lindsay Lohan's character, I mean, like she just gets caught in such a web of lies the whole time. Yeah,
right. Yeah, that's the thing is the movie. I don't want to spoil this Christmas movie. If you've ever seen a Christmas movie, it ends how you think it would end. So, that's the thing. That's the thing that frustrates me a little bit with movies. Like they're suspending disbelief, right?
Of course,
which you have to do. But at the same time, one of the things that frustrates me with a movie is when people don't act how a person would just act. Like I don't mind superhero movies or like Star Wars, like the physics in space don't work, right? But I don't give a damn.
Okay.
But when somebody, her reaction to that, her meeting up, and this is not a spoiler, it's in the trailer. Lindsay Lohan's new boyfriend takes her home for Christmas, and her new boyfriend's sister is dating Lindsay Lohan's ex-boyfriend.
Yeah.
In this movie.
From like a decade earlier.
Right. And the breakup was bad, and they show that at the beginning of the movie. Breakup is bad, it's a whole thing. And instead of being like, oh my gosh, like, this is wild, we used to date, and just putting it all out there like, hey, this is kind of awkward. Good to see you. We used to date. I haven't seen you in a decade. Oh, this is weird. And just like make it weird. Let it be weird.
Oh, yeah.
Instead, she's like, oh, hey, we've never met. Like, you really thought you were going to be able to play that ruse the entire weekend?
Yeah.
No chance.
No chance.
And a real person is not, in that situation, is not going to be like, oh, yeah, nice to meet you. Like, I don't know. I didn't like that. It bugged me. But at the same time, if she doesn't do that, there's no movie. So I get why they had to script it that way. But oof, it was, like you said, impossible to root for anybody. I rooted for the dog.
The dog. That
Salute
was it.
to the dog. The dog got thrown under the bus
a couple of times.
Just brutal.
Yes.
Anyways, did you enjoy it?
It was fine. Like, it's background noise.
That's what they all are.
It is.
All right. Yeah. Anyways, speaking of background noise, the Bucks beat the Oklahoma City Thunder 97-81 last night in the NBA Cup final. Giannis had 26, 19, and 10. I want to talk about the game first, and then I have some post-game stuff to get to with the NBA Cup. And then we'll dive into our King stuff. But Giannis, 26, 19, and 10, 2 steals, 3 blocks. Nobody has wanted to ever win a thing more than Giannis wanted to win the NBA Cup.
I know.
It was insane. My man was on a mission last night.
Yeah, it was very strange. Like it was like one person trying hard and everyone else kind of like, hey, look at that. That's pretty impressive.
Yeah. And then he like after the game was like, job's done. Like, all right, man, salute. Like, you want to win the tournament, like, salute. Honestly, like, good stuff. I want to. Is Giannis an MVP candidate for you?
Okay, so this is interesting. So I've told you guys that the ESPN straw poll, right?
Yes.
10 Bond Temps reaches out every year and then every couple of months.
Friend of the program.
Yeah, friend of the program. Tim, while he isn't popular everywhere in Sacramento, he is a very good dude. Anyway, he reached out during the game the other night. We're like, hey, what do you got for your top 5? So I curated a list of top 5 MVP candidates. Following the game last night, Tim said, hey, I'm giving everyone a shot to change if they want after last night's performance, because I know who I had number 1, which was Shea, because he's the best player on the best team.
Yep.
And then I know who I had number 2, which is Giannis, who has been absolutely insane. Like,
been ridiculous.
Go look at his numbers. And I got to be honest, after last night's performance, even
swapped
in a game that does not count, in a game that
didn't happen.
It did not happen.
The Bucks went into last night at 14-11. They won by a bunch. They exited the night 14-11.
The most strange thing of all time.
Giannis' stat line will not be factored into his totals this season.
That's right. If he loses a rebounding title because he had 19 in a game that didn't count, I'd be pretty pissed if I'm him. Anyway, I got to be honest, I swapped him.
That's fair.
Okay.
But this is just a weird MVP race for me because, okay, you had Shea. Do you remember your top 5 off the top of your head?
I can look them up.
You can look them up because this is a weird MVP race for me, and I'm interested to hear what your top 5 are because just off the rip, if you said, hey, who are the MVP candidates right now?
Yeah, give me your top 5.
I haven't thought about it super hard, but I know Shea would have been up there. Yeah, Jokic probably would have been 1. I probably would have had Giannis 2 and probably Shea 3. Just off the, but again, that's off the dome. Just not a thing that I've like done a deep dive on and thought about very hard.
Yeah.
But just based on what I've seen from those guys and how and what their numbers look like, that would have been the top 3 off the top of my head.
But I always factor in win-loss record.
Sure. Okay, and that's okay, and that's what I want. So, you probably put Tatum in there as well.
No,
Jason, he is not in your top 5. Okay, so tell me your top 5 because I want to try and make a point.
Okay, so number 1 now is Giannis.
Okay.
Number 2 is Shea.
Okay.
Number 3 is Jokic. I think that's all fair.
Okay.
Number 4 is Luka.
Okay.
And number 5 is kind of a stunner, but if you look at it, he deserves to be there, and it's Cat.
Cat has been ridiculous.
And I am not a Cat fan. I have throughout his career, there are things that he did in Minnesota that are very counter to winning, and I did not appreciate some of the stories that I know personally coming out of like him being part of that franchise. But right now he's averaging 24.8. He's averaging 13.9 rebounds,
leading the league,
and 3.3 assists. He's averaging a block. He's ridiculous right now.
He's shooting 43.9% from 3 on 5 attempts a game.
Just absolutely crazy.
He's been insane.
Well, not only that, but if you're going to shoot that well on 5 attempts per game, you would expect him not to be a great rebounder.
Yeah.
Oh, no. He's leading the league in rebounds.
The New York Knicks are 8th in the league in scoring right now. A good team. 3rd in offensive rating. The Knicks! 3rd in offensive rating, 15th in defensive rating.
I just think it's crazy because he's averaging a full 5.6 more rebounds per game than he did last year.
Yeah, that's
crazy.
That is a wild leap.
And the other thing I found interesting is I thought, okay, well, he's stealing rebounds from somebody. So you go and you look, and first of all, I thought that they wouldn't be a good rebounding team, but there's Josh Hart right there at 8.2 rebounds per game. Didn't steal anything from that dude.
Nope.
That dude never let anybody steal rebound from him.
Never.
So, yeah, I don't know. He's just been that impressive. So I had him in my top 5. He probably won't stay in my top 5 throughout the entire season, but I think for right now, where we sit in the season, I'm comfortable with that.
So the reason I think the MVP race is so interesting is because you have Shea in the top 5, and he's on a 1 seed. Nobody from the 1 seed in the East, the Cavs. Nobody from the 2 seed in the East, the Celtics. And this is not a you thing. I think your top 5 is good.
I went to look at the Cavs, and Donovan Mitchell's just like he's averaging 23 points per game.
And Boston is loaded. Yeah, Tatum will wind up in the top 5 for the season.
He
sure.
always ends up in my top 5.
Yeah.
And he's averaging like 28.2 a game or something.
But it's where the race stands right now. Cat is on the 3 seed in the East. The Magic are the 4 seed. They have no candidates, but mostly because the 2 guys are hurt who would be candidates. The Bucks are the 5 seed. You have Giannis as 1 from the number 5 seed. Jokic is the 5 seed. Luka's the 4 seed. Like I just the MVP performances are not necessarily coming from the best teams in each conference right now. And that's what's so interesting to me. And I'm interested to see how this shakes out. If the Bucks finish with 50 wins and they're a 4 seed or 5 seed, does that outweigh it if the Mavericks wind up as the 2 seed?
Well, it's going to be interesting. As of right now, Giannis leads the league in scoring, which is crazy. I mean, he's almost 33 a game, 32 something a game. Luka is down a full 5 points per game over what he was last year.
Yeah, he's really struggled out of the gate.
Yeah, and the other thing is when I look at the Bucks where they're at today, man, they've been on a tear to get to where they are right now.
Yeah,
they have been on an absolute tear. So yes, they are the 5 seed, but this is a team that is totally recovered after a bad start. And a lot of that is because Giannis has just willed them into this race.
He is averaging 33 a night, making less than 1 3 a game.
That's insane. Like, absolutely, that is wild.
33, 11 and a half, and 6 with 1.6 blocks. He's the best player in the sport right now.
So the Bucks started the season 2-8.
Yeah.
And since that moment, they are 12-3.
Technically 13-3.
Technically 13-3.
But last night's game didn't count.
I just don't get it. Why can't you just put that as part of the standings?
Okay,
and have a team play 83rd game.
Make it, dude. Yes, make it an 80. Make it worth 2 wins. That's where. So I want to. Here's my issue with the NBA Cup. I like it in general. I like the idea. And I think the games do have a little bit of added intensity. It's kind of a fun thing mid-season. There's a few issues it has, though. One of them is what you're talking about. That game happened last night and then just evaporates.
Yeah.
To me, if you really want to make this thing like more than just a financial incentive, make that thing worth 2 wins. You get that would be Matt. You think teams aren't going to try, quote unquote, to go get, and it doesn't count for 2 losses.
Well, but how about 2 wins for the winner and 1 win for the loser? I mean, they made it to the finals.
Sure, I guess that plays.
Okay,
but there has to be a way that they can incentivize it beyond the dollars, because the dollars aren't going to draw in fans.
No,
I'm not watching because, like, man, Isaiah Hartenstein might get an extra 6 figures. I'm sorry. I don't give a rip.
Yeah.
But if you said, hey, the Milwaukee Bucks, who have struggled out of the gate, could get 2 wins tonight, it's kind of interesting. I think the Boston Celtics or the Cleveland Cavaliers aren't going to ramp up for in-season tournament games, trying to go get those 2 wins.
I just think it's just to have that like not count at all. It just fully does not make sense by any stretch of the imagination, and I'm never going to be able to wrap my brain around it. I don't know why they did it like that. What it reminds me of, I know this is kind of like obscure and weird, but in like 1973, Barry Bonds' dad, finished with 39 homers and 43 stolen bases. He actually hit a 40th homer, but there was a game mid-season that didn't go 5 innings and had to be replayed. And so his 40th homer fell off the books.
Oh, brutal.
It never counts.
It's like Mr. 3000.
Yeah, so that's exactly when you're looking at, like, I don't get, like, why these things don't count. They should have been able to resume the game, but they didn't. They replayed the game as part of, like, a doubleheader or something.
Right.
And now they resume the game if they have to do something like that. But either way.
That's odd.
It's an oddity to the record books, and it is what it is. He missed out on, if I'm not mistaken, that's the way it worked out.
So That's one major flaw the NBA needs to work out here. Is make that game count.
Yes.
Make it an 83rd game and do the same thing with the play-in tournament. You get an extra game. Or call it a playoff game.
Yeah.
That's what MLB does with their wild card game.
You know what I would hate is
It's
if I got to 64 games as a player and wasn't eligible for postseason awards.
Man, yes.
But I had to play an extra game, whether it was the cup final or it was a play-in, and that would have put me at 65, but I'm still not eligible because I don't have technically 65 games. It's just sitting out there, like the possibility is sitting out there for this.
They have to find a way to fix that. Here's the other thing. I thought the crowd last night sucked. It was the environment was not fun. Their energy wasn't there. And it's because, at least partially, you do this in Las Vegas and you don't have time to plan this trip to Las Vegas. So that means that if you're a Bucks or Oklahoma City Thunder fan, you have to, on a whim, go, yeah, I'm going to fly to Vegas. I'm going to get a hotel in Vegas.
On a whim.
Hope they win the semifinal. And then they go to the final. That doesn't count for anything.
Okay, so
the solution here is get it away from Vegas.
Yes.
Get the hell out of there. You have no reason to be there other than, oh, guys want to go to Vegas. No. Play that game. If that game's in Milwaukee or in Oklahoma City last night and there's something on the line, you think the crowd's not going to be into it?
No, I totally agree.
It would have been awesome.
I don't think you can do neutral site. And I know players are like, hey, well, a trip to Vegas, that would be cool for 3 days. And it's like,
I don't give a damn. But I don't care. But I don't care that the player, if a player wants to go to Vegas, I'm sorry. As a fan, I personally, sure, I want them to be happy. But as a fan, I don't give a rip what they're doing with their leisure time. I want maximum enjoyment from the game. And I think having a crowd that's actually into it and that actually has a emotional investment in who wins the game,
yes,
is a way better way to go about it.
See, I think that if you kept it in Vegas, but you fast-tracked the team expansion and a team being in Vegas, it's a good way to build the value of Vegas again, right? To build the value. But Summer League isn't even all that well attended. Like, I'll go to the small gym is packed. The big gym is never packed. And so, number one, it's too hot, and no one wants to go there because just walking from the parking lot to the building, you might not make it. Like, they may find you in a puddle, like out in the parking lot, and you didn't make it. But also, like, Vegas, just the way that the Raiders are able to capture the fan base there is super unique. It's because you have a rabid fan base that has already had their team move multiple times, and going to Vegas for a weekend and catching a game on Sunday sounds like a lot of fun. That's not what this is. And that's why Major League Baseball, good luck. Because it's not going to work. You are not going to draw 30,000 fans a night, which is what they need in order to pay off their debt to the city. You will not be able to do any of that. It just won't happen. That, like, Vegas is a great town, really hardworking people, but most people in Vegas can't afford anything and they work multiple jobs. They're not going to go sit there and buy season tickets and go to 162 games. And fans aren't just going to fly into Vegas.
That's the bigger thing. Like, that's the bigger deal.
Yeah.
With baseball and clearly with the NBA Cup. It worked a little with the Lakers because you can drive to Vegas from LA. Honestly, for the day. But no substantial amount of people are in Oklahoma City and Milwaukee going, hey, we need to fly to Vegas for the NBA Cup.
Oh, no.
They tried to make it matter. They put out ski goggles. And they did the
drape. Oh, the Bisqueen drape.
Yeah, the Bisqueen. Thank you. Yes, that's the plastic sheeting.
Yep.
They had the champagne out there. They were ready to go. And then shout out to the Bucks for being like, we're not doing all that. We're not doing all that.
Like, seriously.
They're trying so hard to make this matter. And it's like, hey, NBA, it doesn't matter because you get to spray your teammates with champagne. It doesn't matter because of the celebration.
You know, like the worst job in the NBA, just like every
Locker
time,
room attendant.
no, because those guys, like, there's some perks to that job.
Sure.
Like
I thought you were talking about cleaning up. Go ahead.
Well, yes, but cleaning up the Warriors arena after every game that they win when they drop confetti from the ceiling. Just think if every single game you had to sit, and it's a brand new arena, you know that like they want it pristine, and you got to find these little tiny pieces of confetti that are all over the place.
Yeah.
Every single home game that they win,
is that right?
Yes.
I have been at multiple wins and I have not seen confetti.
You've never seen confetti.
Yeah.
Well, every time I've been to a game, there's confetti, and certainly in the playoffs, every single game
in the playoffs,
there's confetti.
yes. In the playoffs, they do.
Yeah,
that's a lot.
Either way, I mean that's a bad job to have to, because it's not like those things just like they're everywhere and it sticks to the floor and it's just like a mess.
It's not fun to get rid of.
No.
I still, from the last parade, because we broadcasted at 95.7, the Warriors flagship, we broadcasted like from the parade route. I still have confetti like in my backpack.
Oh yeah.
It's just impossible to find it. I can't imagine trying to pick it up off a floor.
Yeah, I have a shadow box at home with corks from the locker room.
Yeah.
From champagne corks.
Which is great.
I've got pictures of the champagne. I've got pictures of like from that I took, whether from the locker room or from the floor that night. But I also have confetti inside from the night.
Sick.
So
here's the other issue I have with the NBA Cup, aside from the fact that the game last night was ass. On December 8th, the NBA played 12 games. And again, part of their thing with the NBA Cup is like making early season games matter. We want people to be locked into early season basketball. Okay. On December 8th, there were 12 basketball games. 24 of the 30 teams played. Okay. On December 9th, there was one game. On December 10th, there were 2 games. On December 11th, there were 2 games. So since December 8th, where they played 12 games, they played 5 NBA games. December 12th, 3 games. December 13th, we had 8 games. Okay, that's good. December 14th, back to 2. December 15th, we had 7. Okay. Keep in mind that December 15th, there were 7 NBA games, and that's during an NFL Sunday. December 16th, we had 6 games. December 17th, yesterday, 1 game that doesn't count. And today, no games.
I don't get it. Where's the buildup?
You are trying. Yes. Where is it? Where's the build?
Yeah, where's the buildup? Like, what are we doing?
Just coasting into Christmas?
You killed the buildup to put a tournament in before Christmas.
Yes.
You did.
And now there's no to me, to generate interest, you have to have games on the television. And right now you're losing to Cal UNLV bowl games.
You're losing to Lindsay Lohan Christmas.
Thank you.
You are.
Not a terrible thing to lose to, but I get the point you're making. No, man, they have to construct this in a way where it's not torpedoing the schedule. The rest, I'm sure a team like the Kings is loving it. A few days off here, a few days off there, yeah, sure.
Well, you love it unless it destroyed your 3-game momentum, your 3-game win streak momentum. And if you lose a couple of games out of this, you're going to be like, I don't want to do that again.
Yeah, man. I just I don't know where the upside is for the NBA to be like, yeah, we're going to have all these days where there's only 1 or 2 games.
Well, that, and on top of that,
what?
We talk about this all the time, how we don't really care about the ratings and we don't really care about like the matchups.
Yeah, I don't give a damn about ratings.
It was Milwaukee versus OKC. Those fans tuned in. Everybody else, meh.
You're not right. You're not getting the casual NBA fan.
Yeah.
You'll get people like us, and anybody tapped into sports talk radio at 10:30 on a Wednesday is probably at least checking it out. And frankly, like, that's a good matchup. I don't mind the Bucks versus Thunder as a basketball matchup. The game didn't go great. The Thunder shot 33.7% from the field and 15.6% from 3. 1 for 17 from 3 in the first half. But the matchup is like, okay, but to your point, NBA wise, I promise it's not what they wanted.
No.
But it's what they got.
Because it's what it is. Sorry about that.
This is I don't know, man. They've got. I like this idea. I like that the NBA is willing to think outside the box to drum up the intensity and the urgency and the popularity of the league. That's fine. They've still got some major things to iron out with the NBA Cup. Anyways. The Falcons also made a move at quarterback yesterday. How does that affect the 49ers? We'll talk about it. And is it the time for the Sacramento Kings to hit the big red button in the trade market? We're going to talk about that next because James built a trade this morning. We were playing around with the trade machine. James built a trade that we got to talk about. He's James. I'm Kyle. We're the Insiders. We're sponsored by Jiffy Lube. We're hanging out with you till noon on ESPN 1320 and Sacramento Sports Leader.
Good morning. Good. What's happening?
Hi, Charlie.
No energy in that game last night. No energy.
You said what?
No energy in that game last night.
Oh, it's gross. Everything all right?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, no, I'm just adding something to the little lookie.
Great.
It's an extensive lookie. I got to be honest. It's a lot of looking going on. Hello, Russ Dog.
It's the holidays.
Yeah.
I like the 2 wins idea. That was
Yeah, give me something.
2 wins and a 1 win for the loser. That way it's got something. It's got something there.
Yeah.
The tournament has to have value, or it.
Okay, so Loki, Fox is under contract this season. He's under contract next season. This coming summer is a year that you hope that he signs a massive extension.
Hi, Charlie.
If he says no to a massive extension, but tells you that, hey, look, I'm here for it and I'm ready to play. I'm ready to give you guys 1 more year to show me that like this is where I want to be. Then you probably will hold off on trading him, but his trade value drops considerably after this trade deadline that's coming up in February. Because then, as opposed to a year and a half, you only have him for 1 year. And then if he's going to test free agency, it is what it is. And the only way to get like the Supermax money is if it's with your own team, I believe. So, like his like overall net, like value on the open market will drop. I'm hoping that they don't have to trade Fox. If they trade Fox, I've said this before, if they trade Fox, it's because Fox told them that he's not going to resign and they have to trade him. Kings didn't practice yesterday, Rustock, but the practice on Sunday, the vibes were fine. Like, even the vibes after the game the other night, it was definitely not like we made a run, we played really well down the stretch. That's not at all what it was. It was a very like pointed, like this was not good. We did not come out and put our best foot forward.
So this is the crux of the discussion, RP. You need another legit forward to play next to. Okay, that's great. How do you get him?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And honestly, if it's like, okay, you need a legit forward to play next to Keegan, and you need this kind of guy to play next to Sabonis, you need this kind. Like,
yeah.
If you have that little margin for error with your roster, there's a much bigger problem.
Yeah, I don't fully believe that, Alex, just so you know.
Hey, about 1 minute here. I'm almost done Christmas shopping. Yeah, almost done Christmas shopping.
I did some damage yesterday on
yeah,
the
love
Christmas shopping front. Loki Trickster, yes, it should make you nervous.
All right, here we go.
Now, back to the Insiders with James Ham and Kyle Madsen, brought to you by Jiffy Lube on ESPN 1320.
James Ham and Kyle Madsen, that's us.
It is us, Kyle.
That's James there. I'm Kyle. Jiffy Lube sponsors the show. Make sure to get into Jiffy Lube today because the holiday driving season is upon us, and you don't want to find out that you need an oil change or that you need new wipers or that you should have changed your battery or that you needed new headlights or brake lights. You don't want to find that out mid-travel.
No, and you don't want to get stuck at someone's house either. You don't want to go there and then you wake
Ooh.
up the next morning and your battery doesn't turn over and now you're stuck at your mother-in-law's house for an extra 2 days. Just saying.
Like I'd started at someone's house.
It's just like, hey, the car won't start. What do we do now? Yeah, not great.
Yeah, it's a good way to ruin the holiday. Like, how was your, you don't want to get back to, how was your, oh, it was fine, except for
Jiffy Lube and no other auto parts store is open on Christmas Day and I can't get a new battery.
Yep.
Just saying.
The good news is there's likely a Jiffy Lube location near you. You can find it at jiffylube.com.
Mm-hmm.
And while you're at jiffylube.com, download that holiday special $33 off oil change coupon.
There you go.
It's a great deal. Go get all that done today at Jiffy Lube. All right. So we're talking this morning, as we are wont to do. And as we got into the Kings trade discussion yesterday. And I think the big thing for me, the word that keeps clanging around in my head as we discuss this is urgency. And what does the urgency look like for the Kings? Because in 22-23, it was the rise. It was like, oh my God, hey, there's a good team here. Then last year it was run it back, didn't make any major moves. Okay, gave it a shot, didn't work. This offseason, you add DeMar DeRozan. They still had the same kind of roster shortcomings that we'd mostly talked about, the size and athleticism, particularly on the wings. But yeah, DeMar DeRozan, okay, this is good. That's improvement. Roster looks a little better. Let's see what it looks like.
But you got smaller.
You definitely lost some size. So now they're 13-14. And trade season is nigh, if not upon us. And the thing I keep coming back to when we talk about urgency is everybody goes, you got to make a trade. They got to make a trade now. But if the assets are Devin Carter and
maybe Devin Carter, they may not even want to trade him.
Right. But realistic assets that could be on the table. We've talked about first round picks, but you don't want to give up. It might not be a guy worth giving up a first round pick for. All right.
Well, Kyle,
go ahead.
I'm going to keep pointing to the problem with giving up first round picks. Problem is, it like if right now if you trade a first round pick, you're looking at 2027 and possibly 28. You might not be able to trade until 28, right?
Because of the pick that goes to the Hawks.
Because of the pick that goes to the Hawks and the Stepien rule.
Boy,
right?
they need that to convey this year.
Okay, so we said that last year too, and
I
it
know.
didn't convey. Okay, but here's the problem, Kyle. The problem is that your 27 pick coincides with DeMar DeRozan's final year. He already would be at the end of his final year. And that's, he's under contract for this year. He's under contract for 25
Sure.
and 26, 27, right? Like, that's it. Like, if you're going to lose, that's not a good idea, because at that point you could have a steep drop off in production at a major position.
Sure.
And not have any assets to go address that with.
Okay.
Or even to trade with. But go ahead.
Understood.
Yep.
And I get all of that. But I guess my contention is, if your concern is, we might be bad in 2027, then what are we doing here? To me, like, we said it when they got DeMar DeRozan, like, all right, here's the window.
No, I agree.
And that's why, to me, it's the F them picks thing. If they stink in 2027 and they don't have a first, so freaking be it.
Yeah.
But if you have that first and it's like, yeah, we had that first, but also it meant not making the playoffs or not making any kind of real substantial run in the 3 years prior, why does it matter? What are we doing this for then?
I totally agree.
So that's why, to me, you can and again, this is not give up a first round pick just to do it. But if you need to give up a first round pick to go get a player that you think upgrades your roster even a little bit right now, I think you have to do it. And the other question that comes up is, when we talk about assets, are we at the point yet where we're putting Keegan Murray on the table? He might not be in the center of the table. He might not be up there with Kevin Huerter's contract and Trey Lyles' contract and all that. But is he on the table more than he was this time last year?
I would say, like, up until this point, he's been off the table.
Yeah.
Right? Completely.
Yeah.
Unless, like, there's always that crazy deal out there that will never happen, that you say, like, GMs will always tell you, we never say never. We never say that every player on our team is untouchable.
If Jaylen Brown asked out and Boston said, we want Keegan Murray for Jaylen Brown, you would do it.
Yeah, Keegan Murray, salary filler, and a couple of firsts.
Sure.
Yeah.
Right, you're doing that.
You have to do it.
Realistically, the realistic moves that were going to be out there, he was not on the table.
No, he wasn't. And even, like, for the last couple of years, like the Lauri Markkanen deal, like, I believe that there were times that they could have had Lauri Markkanen if they were willing to include Keegan Murray. And they weren't. They weren't willing to include him, and they haven't been. They've always held that he is off the table. That if they're going to make a move, they're going to look at all of these other assets that they might have before they actually go to the Keegan Murray card. And that, like, rightfully so. I mean, he was a 4th pick in the draft. You still have him under contract for this year, next year, and then even if he doesn't sign an extension, you can still do a qualifying offer and get a 5th year, but more likely you're going to sign him to an extension next summer. And that's where, like, this becomes really, really complicated. I don't know, Kyle, when you go out and you sign a guy like DeMar DeRozan, we all knew what that meant. That meant that Keegan Murray was likely going to have to take a little bit of a lesser role on the offensive side of the ball, right? And a much bigger role on the defensive side of the ball, because DeMar DeRozan, for all that he does do, he is not a great defender, and, like, he's limited at age 35 and who he can defend and where he can defend. It's just a reality of the situation. It's not calling out DeMar. It's just everybody who hits a certain age at the NBA, it becomes more and more difficult to keep up with the young kids that do crazy things, right? So you're going to keep asking more of Keegan Murray, but I kind of figured that what we would have is Keegan Murray take a little bit lesser of a role, but still get enough shots where he was around the same, maybe a little bit more points per game, and develop more, be able to develop at maybe what would be a proper pace, right? On a good team, developing him. But that's not kind of what we've seen. What we've seen is a young player who, for whatever reason, has not been able to. I mean, on the defensive end, he lives up to it. As a rebounder, he's living up to it. But everything else in his game just feels like he doesn't really know what his identity is at this point, and it's like he doesn't just want to be a set shooter. He can go to the rim and just hammer down on guys. That's fine. He can do that, but like once or twice a game. The mid-range jump shot looks great, but he only gets 1 or 2 of them a week. And so what you've done is you've kind of like, there's not a lot of way for him to get out of the rut he's in. Because realistically, especially when you put Malik Monk in the lineup, he's your 5th guy in the starting lineup. He is your 5th option in the starting. And there's no question about that. He's a 5th option.
It is not even close.
You have 2 excellent playmaking guards. You have a very good playmaking small forward, and you have one of the best playmaking centers in the game.
Yep.
And then you have Keegan Murray.
Yep.
And Keegan's not the playmaker that any of the other guys are. So what that does is he becomes a secondary option.
And he's not, and just real quick, and he's not the type of player who's going to go, I'm going to go create chances for myself.
No.
He's going to take that back seat, and he's going to do it willingly.
Even when he goes up and gets offensive rebounds, which he's done so much better this season.
Yes.
He's kicking him out.
Yep.
He's not going back up with the ball. He's not creating his own shot, which is, again, he's being a good teammate, and there's nothing wrong with what he's doing there. It's just the reality of the situation. And so what you don't want to see is him to continue to decline as an overall scorer, because I thought what we would see is him and DeRozan sort of on equal footing. And then as DeRozan starts to decline, Keegan would go up. That's not at all what we've seen. We've seen DeMar DeRozan weight the scale so heavily, and Keegan Murray is just not part of any game plan. And if he's
which
not
is kind of
hitting,
surprising to me.
it is. And if he's not hitting his first 3-point shot, then it's not coming back around to him nearly enough. And so I feel for him, because clearly he knows that, like, everybody on the outside is talking about it, but he continues to say that he's fine. He understands what his role is. He would like to shoot the ball better and all this stuff, but it's really tough. Just look at how Doug McDermott got into a game late and just said, like, look, I don't care. And he hit a whole bunch, 6 threes, but he hoisted 9, right? He's like, okay, I'm just going to go for it. He needed that to get himself in rhythm, to find himself on the court again. We're waiting for those moments from Keegan, and unfortunately it's just few and far between. And he's been great as a rebounder. He's been great defensively, but it just puts him at a disadvantage as far as, like, I mean, if you want to get paid in the NBA, you score points.
Yes.
How are you supposed to score points when you're in a starting lineup with 4 really, 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 really good scorers? Like really top end NBA talent scorers.
Yes.
3 of the guys average well over 20 points per game. One of them is, as a starter, has got to be close to 20 points a game, in Malik Monk. How are you supposed to find your shots?
And that's where I wonder, because look, this isn't, I want to make sure that I'm conveying this thought properly. This isn't a Keegan is bad, now get rid of him idea or thought. This is is he going to grow into the player that they were hoping he was going to grow into? Because this is not a 20-year-old.
No.
He is 24. He's in his age 24 season. So if this is what it's going to look like for the next couple of years with DeMar DeRozan, and you have Keegan Murray as a 27-year-old after that, it may, I just, here's and I don't know. I don't know the answer to this, but it's like, would you be better if you can include Keegan in a trade for multiple assets where, okay, maybe your starting 4 isn't quite as good as Keegan as a player, but your 7th and 8th players are significantly better.
Yeah, that's going to be the question.
Because you're talking about, like, what's his role? If this is what DeMar DeRozan's going to be to the Kings, where he's taking up this much oxygen in the offense, which I don't mind, it's not a bad thing. I think it was a little bit maybe unexpected. But if he's going to take up this much oxygen, then you don't need a player as high level as Keegan hanging out over there if it means that you can get multiple rotation pieces.
No, I get it. I'm going to make the, like, potential is such a bad thing in the NBA. I know it sounds like potential is great. You need productivity.
Especially with where the Kings are now, you need productivity.
Yeah, potential is fine, right? But you only have potential for so long. And if you can't convert that potential into productivity, and I would make the argument that Keegan throughout his first 3 seasons has been extremely productive, just not as productive as maybe you would think. But I think this is like, it's fully situational. Like, I don't know that, again, everyone out there, we're looking at like the Nets. We keep bringing up the Nets because, like, number one, I know that
they're open for business.
I know that they've had conversations, and they literally are open for business.
Yeah.
Like
They've already done a trade.
Yeah, they have a giant sale sign sitting above their franchise. They're ready to make deals, and they're looking for young players. They're looking for draft assets. They're looking to reset their roster. And so then we start looking at that team, and the two players that stick out are Dorian Finney-Smith, who's 31 years old and under contract for a year, or Cam Johnson, who's 28 years old but under contract for 2 more years after this year, so 2.5 years. So you're like, okay, but here's my concern: the player that I'm looking at, Keegan Murray, right now, and if I'm comparing him around the league, you were hoping you were getting Chris Middleton, but it's looking more and more like you're getting Cam Johnson. Not Cam Johnson, who's got inflated scoring stats right now, but Cam Johnson throughout his career. And so at a certain point, you're looking at Keegan Murray and his contract extension this summer and going, okay, there was a point where Keegan Murray is a $30+ million extension guy.
But if they had to do it this offseason, I think that's what they would have done.
Of course. But that he doesn't get the opportunity until after this season.
Right.
And now if you're the Kings, are you going to pay $30-something million a year for a player who's averaging 12 points and shooting, even if he has a revitalization here, but finish the season 34-35% from 3? Yeah, he's a great defender, but a great defender, not an all-NBA defender, but a really, really good defender. I mean, basically, we're describing Cam Johnson. Like his stat, except for he's a better rebounder. But defensively, they're both really good defensive players. Like, so you're starting to wonder, like, what is his value, not just on the open market, but what is his value to you? And at 24, again, this is a player that if you're going out there and trying to improve your roster right now, teams are going to ask, hey, is he available? And I still think the answer is no, but that doesn't mean that the answer is fully no.
I think the answer typically would have been no. I think now the answer is like, for what?
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. And that's where you start to look, like we were talking about it earlier. It's like, well, what if you were to include him on a trade with the Nets? And it's like, okay, well, like,
because the Nets want young players
and picks
and expiring contracts.
Yes, exactly. So like, if you were to piece together a deal, there is a way to make a deal with the Nets where not only can you potentially bring back a Dorian Finney-Smith and a Cam Johnson, but then you can start asking for other things as well. Because to balance out the value of the trade and the fact that you're getting 4 years older at the forward position with Cam Johnson, and you're getting 7 years older with a guy like Dorian Finney-Smith, they're going to have to throw in something to sort of balance the sheet. And that's where
who?
Well,
is there a...
Yeah, I mean, they've got a couple of young bigs that, again, Nick Claxton makes a bunch of money, so you're not going there. But like a guy like Noah Clowney, you're like, Noah Clowney starts making a little bit more sense. He's 20 years old, and you're like, well, why would the Nets give him up? It's like, well, the Nets are giving him up because they're getting something larger in value, something that's a top 4 pick.
And Noah Clowney is like a 6'10". He's a legit 4 who can shoot it.
Yeah, he's a legit 4-5 who is shooting tons of threes. And so you're like, okay, can you create a deal? And I'm not advocating for this. I'm not reporting that something like this could happen.
No, this was literally just us playing around with the trade machine today. Yeah,
but at some point you do have to look at everything, right? You have to look at, why are you not succeeding right now?
Yeah, and that's what. So here's why this even comes to mind. Because it is, to me, the urgency is as high as it's ever been for Sacramento. And we've talked about Kevin Huerter, and we've talked about Trey Lyles, and we've talked about Devin Carter. And okay, do you give up first? Whatever this is, I wonder if the move is out there. Maybe it's not a move at the Nets. Maybe it's some other team that is not being talked about that we don't know yet.
Of course.
But if you think that you can get a player to effectively replace Keegan, and then also 2 more rotation players.
Yeah, one for the future and one for the now.
Yeah, and Noah Clowney could play too. Like it's not like he's going to play no minutes.
Yeah.
But and again, we pick the Nets because we know they're open for business. This could be any team. I think you have to at least consider it when you talk about the depth on this team and the assets they have. It has to at least be in consideration, and I understand that it's kind of counterintuitive because they need specifically players on the wing who are good defenders.
They need more Keegan Murrays.
Right. And so moving a Keegan Murray sounds insane. But if you're getting a effective Keegan replacement, but then also another wing like that, like Cam Johnson and Dorian Finney-Smith, and a 6'10" 4 who can play next to Sabonis, now it gets not saying I would do it today.
Yeah.
Well,
I'm giving
that way more thought now. And again, like you said, it's not like it's on the table. This is Kyle and James playing with the trade machine today.
Yeah.
But if that deal was on the table in this hypothetical world, I'm considering that today way more than I would have considered it this time last year.
No, totally. And like in any deal that you're gonna create with those two teams, you have to understand that it would not just be a player like Keegan Murray. In addition to that, it would be Kevin Huerter, it would be Trey Lyles, and it would be a Colby Jones. It would be like contract filler. And you would also have to go to your owner and say, hey, it's going to put us like $4 million over the luxury tax. You're going to have to pay.
But that's my concern here. And the reason I'm willing to go down the Keegan Murray path, because I don't think he's going to get traded. For what it's worth, if I had $1,000 to bet, I would bet he's not moved.
I would agree with you.
And I would comfortably do that.
Yeah, I would agree with you. And I would also say that like any trade that we just like create, it's not going to be that. They're not trading him for Kyle Kuzma.
No.
They're not trading him for an expiring contract that is Brandon Ingram.
No.
Like that's not what we're talking about, unless you're getting an extension with Ingram that makes sense to you. But even still, like you're going to have to piece this thing together in some weird way if you're going to make any move. And I don't even know, like my concern that most of these moves that we're talking about, it doesn't matter who you bring in. They're going to look very similar to Keegan Murray's offensive stats because you still have the same starting four. And it's just whether or not you can collect the other assets that make more sense, where all of a sudden you can build out your bench in a different way. But what you can't do is expect that like moving a Keegan Murray for Cam Johnson would be in the same exact situation where he is the fifth player.
Right.
You know, the only way you maybe take a step up there is if you were to go get a Brandon Ingram. And I'm still confused at where Brandon Ingram wouldn't be the fifth option in your offense.
Yeah, I think he absolutely would.
I mean, he would be fighting. It would be a fourth and fifth option with DeMar DeRozan.
I don't think he fits Brandon Ingram specifically. Just while we're on that specific topic, but
yeah, and he's injured, and like you need help now, and he's going to be out for weeks with an ankle.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I think the discussion at least has to be started.
My concern here is that we get to the day after the deadline, and a couple of second round picks for a Kessler Edwards type is their move.
Yeah.
And we're sitting here going into mid-February into March and going,
when is De'Aaron Fox's agent going to come out and say that it's time? And that's the problem. You got, a GM who has to be feeling the heat right now. You have a coach that clearly,
I would hope so. If he doesn't, we got a bigger problem.
Yeah, you got a coach that's clearly felt the heat. Like, at what point do you have to make moves? And again, you don't want to make moves out of desperation. And somebody asked the other day, are every team in the league looking at the Kings as like the desperate team that has to make a move? It's like that. Okay, sure. But like, look, every team in the league has to make a move for one reason or another, either to get better or get worse. Yeah. That's just the way the league is. And everybody's always looking to get better or get worse.
Yeah.
And so, the Kings, if they're making a move right now, it's because things have not gone the way that anyone expected them to go so far this season.
Yeah.
At all.
We'll continue talking about this. There's a couple more layers that we need to dive into. And in the second hour, I am going to tell you how the 49ers can still win the NFC West.
Yes. We should get Kenny in here for this.
Oh, it's the dumbest thing. We'll do that. We'll keep talking Kings. Plenty more coming up in the second hour. He's James. I'm Kyle. We're the Insiders, and we're sponsored by Jiffy Lube. It's ESPN 1320, and we're on Sacramento Sports Leader. Clear.
What's going on, everybody? I'm not advocating for trading Keegan Murray, and I would not trade Keegan Murray. I will make that very clear. But there has to come a point where you got to look at this and go, okay. We'll get into this a little bit later. Oh, yeah. Just so everyone knows tonight, I will be, I'm going to join the Chatty House after party. I'll be there around 8 p.m. It's my trivia night. And so as soon as I get done with trivia, I'm racing over. But it should be super close to that time. This is a good point, David, but not every team that has their own assets and has capital is in the mood to trade. So, like, I know the Houston Rockets GM came out and said very specifically, he's like, I do not think we will make a trade. We love the team that we've assembled, and we want to give it a shot to grow. Check in this offseason and see if he still feels that way. But even like the Fred VanVleet thing, Fred VanVleet's only on a contract for, I think, this year. But when you're looking at that, they have Reed Shepherd that they drafted to play to sort of replace him. And I would think that VanVleet will probably be back for a couple more years, potentially. But it doesn't, like, that team is built to withstand, like, losing a player. And yeah, there are teams out there that have better assets, but not all those teams have, I don't know, the flexibility, the expiring contracts. Like, there's always something that somebody doesn't have. Kings literally have all their first round picks from 2027. I don't know what that. The Kings technically can't trade their 2027 pick without like an asterisk that says it could be the 2028 pick. And they have the pick swap from 2030 or 2031. And then they barely have any seconds. That's another problem the Kings have. This is fair. They can just be the team that keeps calling. Yeah, that's a good point. You know who the Kings could be? They could be like the girl that's really interested in you, but you're not fully interested in them. But
story of my life.
But they're still like right there.
Wait, no, the other way. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, but they're still like right there, and you're like, okay, smart, good looking, like it's okay, but it might not just be the perfect fit.
That spark's not there.
But you're still willing to at least like hang out and listen. That's what the Kings in some of these trade scenarios might be. But Manny bullied somebody, Zabo. I don't know what's going on here.
Manny being a bully, typical.
I don't think that. No, I don't think there's any chance the Kings are getting Kuminga. Getting Kuminga is really, really difficult because the Kings aren't at a point where they're waiting for somebody. Again, the reason why they would trade for Cam Johnson is not because Cam Johnson has better potential at 28 than Kuminga does at 21, 22. It's because you're not going to wait for Kuminga and the mistakes that Kuminga makes if you're a team that's already like looking for upgrades. Like physically, like athletically, he's an upgrade, but there's still plenty of holes in Kuminga's game. And I don't think the Kings are looking for someone that they have to wait around for. You kind of want to get a player that you know what you're getting. Yeah, I saw this trade, Carlson. That's just a horrible trade. That like somebody.
Hey, that we're literally not even giving that airtime.
Yeah. that like, why would the Kings take that deal? Like, why would you give up a star level player for? I like Jaime Jaquez. I do, but everybody in that trade is a role player, and on top of being a role player, a 2030 first round pick.
And that's for Fox, right?
Yeah. Why would the Kings
look,
even listen?
Here's the thing real quick. We have 10 seconds. If the Kings are trading De'Aaron Fox, it's for like a, pardon the pun, Kings ransom.
Yeah.
It's not a bunch of randos from the Heat.
It's for 3 really, really, really good players from the Houston Rockets.
Yeah. Yes.
That's what it would be. Young players.
Here we go. Hour number 2, that's James Sam. I'm Kyle Madsen. We're rocking with you until noon. Then we will hand it off to D-Lo and KC. Little bonus NFL content for you. Coming up here on 102.5 FM HD2 The Bet. 1 o'clock p.m. on Saturday. We're carrying the Steelers at the Ravens. That'll be a fun one. Also want to remind everybody that we're your exclusive home for the college football playoffs. And on Friday, Friday, we will have number 10 Indiana at number 7 Notre Dame. That should be a ton of fun. And then on Saturday, we will have a triple header of college football playoff action that begins at 9 a.m. So if you're driving around and you're looking for play-by-play, we got it for you here on ESPN 1320. Speaking of the Kings, we've been talking about a lot today. We've been talking about it a lot every day, but we have a couple of tickets to give away.
Oh,
in fact, we have 5 pairs of tickets to give away. You can win a pair of tickets to the Miami Heat against the Sacramento Kings at Golden One Center on January 6th. It's this easy to enter. You want some free Kings tickets? Here's how you enter. Go to ESPN1320.com. You'll see the entry form. You're going to fill that out. And then you're entered. That's all.
That's all
you have to do. You don't have to leave a voicemail. You don't have to call the show. You don't have to do anything like that. You can just enter online, ESPN1320.com. I'm giving away 5 pairs of tickets to the Heat and Kings game on January 6th at Golden One Center. 916-909-1320. 916-909-1320. That's the Elk Grove Kia talk line. If you'd like to jump in on this Kings trade discussion, would you put Keegan Murray on the table? I don't think I would right now.
I'm not either.
I think for me, it's something that they should be considering more than they probably would have or should have at this point last year, if the right move is out there. But I'll go back to what I said at the end of the last segment. What I don't want to see is more inaction. That would be frustrating for me.
Okay.
And I have concerns that Kevin Huerter and Trey Lyles and a future protected first are going to move the needle much in what looks to be a busy trade market.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the disadvantage the Kings are in. I don't think that like Huerter or Lyles have negative trade value. Again, Herter's under contract for $16.9 million this year, and I think it's like 18 next year. Trey Lyles is an expiring contract at $8 million. Like, they're not negative value players, but that's the deal. Like, when you're trading those guys, it's not with the expectation that you're going to get a bunch of value for them as much as it is you're going to be able to match salary, and then whatever you're giving is on top of that.
Yeah.
And that's a tough thing. What is on top? What is the real crux of the deal? What is it that would make a team that is either starting over or trying to get better right now? What would make them take on those players?
Yeah.
And, again, it's not like if you were to make a deal, those players would go and play for that team.
Mm-hmm.
And that's totally fine. I mean, Kevin Huerter could even be moved again down the road for another pick situation. But that's it. What the Kings are offering, it has to come with something else. And that's what people should know. Like the 2027, 2028, 2029, 2030. Yeah. You know what? Chris Ochoa brings up this, but I also saw in the chat, somebody else brought up, hey, just go get Bam.
Yeah, just do that.
Yeah. Yeah. And, that was Chris Ochoa again.
I think he was making fun of that trade that Heat fans put out. That was like De'Aaron Fox for a bunch of randos on the Heat.
Yes.
Like, come on.
Now,
cool.
Look,
we'll just do the Heat best player for a bunch of randos on the Kings. Here you go.
Exactly. And
easy work.
I don't know that, again, that if the Miami Heat decide to blow it up, which is always a possibility because they've been good, but they're not great. And, they always have something up their sleeves. They're a quality franchise, one of the best franchises. But if they were to ever put Bam Adebayo, that's where you're like, okay, I'm definitely looking at Keegan Murray. I'm definitely looking matching salaries plus Keegan Murray plus whatever first round picks at 27 and 29 and 31. Okay, 3 first round picks. That's what I got. It's going to you. That's what I got.
Yeah.
So if Bam ever became available, because that would do a couple of things. Number one, it would give you a Twin Tower situation. And a great defender to go alongside Sabonis, but it would also give you the passing big when he steps off the court. It would also give you the tie with Monk and with Fox because they all played together at Kentucky for one season. It would be like if you could go get a player out there, it might be the perfect player to go get to make sure that you kept your core in place for the next 5 years or 7 years.
Is Keegan Murray still part of the core?
He is. I fully think he is. And I always we bring this up a little bit. I do worry a little bit about the ramifications if you were to trade Keegan Murray, because Keegan
it's a risk for sure.
Well, it's a risk because he could go be a great player somewhere else, but it's also a risk because he's very, very close to De'Aaron Fox. And this is upsetting the apple cart. Fox has always been someone who sort of compartmentalizes these things, at least in public. If you talk to him about it, when it came to Malik Monk, it's how much you want Monk back? Oh, I want him back a bunch, but I also want my buddy to go get as much money as possible.
Yeah.
If that's what happens, if he goes and makes a bunch of money somewhere, then I'm happy for him, and I'm not going to take away from him. I want him to go be happy. And so Fox has always been able to compartmentalize, even the Harrison Barnes, how much you really wish that he was here. Yeah, love Harrison Barnes. He's a big culture piece. But Harrison Barnes and I are going to be friends the rest of our lives. Just because he's not here in the locker room doesn't mean he's not going to be. I think Keegan might be a little bit different because of how they've brought him into their family.
Yeah.
But
again, and this gets back to this whole discussion, and I want to move on. I want to get to a different aspect of this Keegan thing. But again, and I want to make this clear. This is two guys talking on the radio. We were messing around with the trade machine this morning, but this isn't reporting. But that's where I want to be clear. For me, if Keegan's on the table, it's in a deal that makes the Kings demonstrably better right away.
Yeah.
It's for a deal where, De'Aaron might not like to see his buddy go, but man, you know what? They're going to start winning a lot of games. That would, so I'm not putting him on the table for just anybody. On a more realistic note, because I wouldn't bet on Keegan Murray getting traded. And I guess this fits this slides in parallel to the Brock Purdy conversation, because I think at the end of last year, the 49ers were probably like, yep, we're ready to give Brock Purdy a top of market contract. We think we can win a Super Bowl with him. 60, 61, 62, 65, whatever he winds up wanting, we'll pay him.
Yep.
But then the season plays out and you see some regression. It's like, all right, well, you're still going to pay him. You still keep him. But is he a $60+ million quarterback? Can you build a winner around him with that at that contract? I think Keegan Murray is kind of falling into the same realm, where when his rookie scale extension comes up, you're paying him. But I think that contract looks different now than it would have if he was eligible after last year.
Yeah, I mean, there's a reason why DeMar DeRozan, at age 35, just signed a 3-year, $75 million deal.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you score at the NBA level, you're going to get paid. You don't score at the NBA level and become a fifth option, you're not going to get paid nearly as much. And that's where, again, like, take Cam Johnson's current stats and just throw them out the window, like the 18.8 points per game that he's averaging. Just look at his career path and then match it up next to Keegan Murray's with you can line them up like statistically, and that's when you start to look financially. What does Keegan's next contract look like? And maybe the Kings are willing to just do a max money deal, because you go back to last season and almost every rookie scale contract got picked up. Well, all of the guys who were like playing well, even like Jalen, is it Green? Not Jalen.
Yeah, Jalen Green.
For the Rockets.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. He still got like a 3-year, $100 million deal.
Yeah.
He just didn't get the 5-6-year deal. The 5-year deal.
Yeah.
Like onto, and it's usually what it is a 5-year deal tacked onto your final year of your contract. So you're literally going like either going to be with that team until year 8 or year 9, depending on the length of contract. And so for me, it's a little complex, right? Like, what do you do with Keegan? And there has to be some honest conversations about, like, look, what is the value? What is the market value? You can't just pay a guy $30 million because, this is sort of the Tobias Harris thing. You just can't pay a guy who's not an all-star money forever.
Right.
Just because you don't have another option and you think he might get there.
Right.
Like that's not the way this works. So,
and all those guys that I would have to go look and refresh my memory, but I'm pretty sure all the guys who got those big rookie scale extensions are like primary scorers.
Yeah.
Which I understand that there's more to basketball than that. But when you go look at all the highest paid dudes, almost every single one of them is a scoring type of player.
I told you that the Matt Harpering story. Matt Harpering was like a really, really good player, like jack of all trades, like a guy that you want in your rotation for the Utah Jazz forever.
Yes.
Like a Jaime Jaquez, right? A guy who does everything. And he said, hey, I'm going to be a free agent at the end of the year. And so I went for it. And he went out and scored a bunch of points. Was totally inefficient as a player, was not nearly as efficient as he had been as a player. Some of his other stats also hurt. But he went out and did that for 1 year, got paid, and then said, okay, I'm going to go back to being the player that I am.
He went, just to your point here, he was 8.2, 4.0. These are points per game. 11.1, 11.8, 17.6, 16.2, 14, 12.5, 11.6.
Got his money.
Got paid.
That's the way the league works.
Yep.
If you like Malik Monk, signed a 2-year, $20 million deal with the Sacramento Kings. He put up points. He got a 4-year, $78 million deal. That's it. Like he made it's 2 times a year length of contract, but 4 times the value of the contract. And like, it's tough, but I don't know what to tell Keegan. Like because you want your players to be motivated by this, to be motivated to be better and everything else. And Keegan's not someone who's going to be like, he's not chasing the money, right? He's not that guy, but you also have to like, where do I fit into this world with the Kings?
Sure.
And it's not easy because for the next 2 years, you're fitting in as like, maybe your best role is to come off the bench. Maybe, but they can't afford that.
A fifth option on offense who's good at defense doesn't make $30+ million.
No.
And it appears that's going to be his role on the team moving forward.
Yeah.
So I'm really interested to see how the Kings handle that, because if that's what he's going to be, and it looks like that's what he is, that's fine. This is not an insult. That's not a bad thing.
Yeah.
But that means his contract is going to fall into a different tier, because when it was $30+ million, that's when we all looked at Keegan Murray and went, oh man, if he's going to develop as their number 2 scorer, and it's going to be Fox, and it's going to be Murray with Monk off the bench and Sabonis distributing, and oh my God, everybody watch out. And as he gets into his third year, and it looks like that's not really going to be there, that contract number changes.
Yeah, the ramifications of Malik Monk moving into the starting lineup, I mean, it basically doubled down on the addition of DeMar DeRozan. It's like, hey, DeMar is going to take away from what Keegan Murray does offensively. And it doesn't have to. Like, if Keegan's hitting his 3-point shots, he's still averaging 15 points per game.
Sure.
Like, it's not even
and this is a question we may not ever know the answer to this.
Yeah.
But is there a correlation with he doesn't handle the ball as much, the way the offense moves, where he's getting his shots, how he's getting his shots? Is that changing? Is that playing a role in the fact that he's shooting a career worst? I'm sorry, I was on the wrong thing. That he's shooting a career worst 3-point percentage and having his worst offensive season.
Yeah. Well, it's a chicken or the egg, because I can tell you if he was hitting his threes early in the season, there probably wouldn't have been a move to Malik Monk going into the starting lineup. And so, like, look,
I'm more mean with DeRozan.
Oh, well, yeah. I mean, the stats say that Keegan's missed wide open shots.
Sure.
Like wide open shots, he's not hitting.
But to me, my question is that a product of, it went from this, he was shooting on the move and he was getting dribble handoffs and he was doing all this other stuff, to, okay, you go hang out in the corner and you watch the game, and when it comes to you, you got to shoot it. And you may not touch the ball for 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 possessions. Or you may not get a shot for 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 possessions. And you're like, oh wait, no, it's your turn, you hoist.
Yeah, that's the problem
and again, we may not ever know, but it seems to me that would have a larger impact than anything else.
Well, I mean, he's expending a ton of energy as a rebounder and a ton of energy as a defensive player. And so it kind of makes him into a 3-point set shooter. And you got to hit the shots. Like, again, I would like to tell you, like, if he just look at the shot attempts he takes per game, and if you added 10% to his shooting percentage, what would he be averaging points per game? Probably 2.9 or 3.3 points per game. I mean, I don't think that the mathematical equation is sitting there. And
go ahead.
No, go ahead.
This is kind of interesting. His 3-point attempt rate is down. It's 49%. Less than half of his shots are threes.
Okay.
His usage rate is also a career low right now.
Of course.
And that's what I was kind of getting at. Is I wonder if that's having an adverse impact on when he does get the ball, which again calls into question what is his role on this team.
Yeah. No, it's tough, man. I don't know like how you assess this if you're a GM.
No clue.
Like I don't know. And that's what's really tough.
Are you surprised at all by DeMar DeRozan's role, by the way? You brought that up. You brought up his role earlier, and I just kind of shifting gears. I'm a little bit surprised he's as involved as he is.
Yeah, I mean, I think that this is like he's not ready to give up the ghost yet. Like this is, I don't know. Am I shocked? No, because this is who he's been throughout his career.
Yeah.
But at 35, like there almost has to be a changing of mentality here at some point, especially if you're not successful this season. If you continue to not be successful, if they continue to lose like this, then yeah, you need to rebalance this thing and you need to actively do it. Like, hey, look, this is what we're doing. I need you to drop in shot attempts per game, and I need him to raise up, because what we can't do is just stop developing a player.
Yeah.
So it's tough.
16.7 shots per game for DeMar DeRozan. Half less than he was taking last year. He's at 17.2 last season.
Okay.
But in 2.3 more minutes per game.
Yeah, but I'd also look like Sabonis's shot attempts per game are up. Like, there's a reason why. And again, if Keegan Murray was knocking down 41, 42% from three, then he's getting way more looks than he is right now.
Yeah.
Like you're going to be looking for him all the time. But, you know, again, all of a sudden Sabonis is at 13-2. I think last year he finished at 12.9 shot attempts per game. Keegan Murray is only down like 0.7 shot attempts per game, I believe. I think last year he's right at 12.
Yeah.
No, he's at 12.7. So he's down 1.4 shot attempts per game.
Hmm.
And of those, one of them straight up is coming from the 3-point line. Last year he's at 6.6. This year he's at 5.5. So actually 1.1 of his 1.4 shot attempts per game have come right off the top of this 3-point shooting.
Can we shift gears briefly?
Yeah.
916-909-1320, 916-909-1320. Before we shift gears, let's head out to New Jersey where our guy Mitch is patiently waiting. Mitch, what's going on?
How you guys doing?
Doing great.
Good.
Yeah. So the trade that the Golden State made, you could trade a guy I wanted, since last year, Anthony Melton. He's out for a year, but they traded him they got a starter, I think, in Schrader. I wish we could do that. Maybe we can give them a player, somebody's on injured reserve, like Carter, and get Cam Johnson and, 3 2s and 4 3s and 5 4s. We got to do something. We got to do something pretty quick.
Yeah, no doubt. Thanks, Mitch. Appreciate you. Yeah, I think Devin Carter is going to be a topic of discussion more as the trade deadline draws closer. And again, that's not till February. The D'Anthony Melton trade worked because he's an expiring. That's why they were interested.
Yeah, and D'Anthony Melton's out for the year, like Mitch said. But I mean, that's just straight up. It's like almost like the Trey Lyles contract. Like there's not much difference between I think Melton was at like 10 million.
Lyles they wanted the expiring money.
Yeah, they wanted the expiring money, and they more importantly, they wanted the 2 extra second round picks they got out of that deal.
Yeah,
and they looked at Schroeder and said, "Can we get more for him?" I had some conversations around with other people around the league, and they're like, "Look, there just wasn't a huge, robust market for him. There was no first round pick for Dennis Schroeder, so trading 2 seconds for him made sense for them."
Sure.
And it's the same thing. What was it? Trey Jones last year. Like Washington tried to trade him in the second, leading up to Tyus Jones.
Yeah.
Leading up to the trade deadline, they tried to trade him, and the best they could get was like a second. They weren't even getting 2 seconds or a late first. They thought they would probably be able to get a first for him.
Which is shocking.
Shocking.
It's so weird how the league views players versus how we view players.
Yes. And they're like, look, he's a nice guard, but we don't think he's a starter. And are we going to pay him $10 million a year moving forward? I don't think so.
Man, I just feel like he could have helped some teams last year.
No, I think he could have totally helped some teams. I think he could have helped the Sacramento Kings last year.
Yeah.
It's just a very, very good player. But sometimes you need to assess the market and you look and you shop it as much as you can and you go, okay, this is what we're going to get for him.
Yeah.
And that's where I think the Nets are at a very close point where they're like, okay, look, Cam Johnson might not average 18.8 points per game for the rest of the season. He might drop right back down to 14, 15 points per game. We might want to sell high.
Yeah.
And hope that it makes sense for some other team. But even if the Kings were going to go get him, I don't expect Cam Johnson to average 18.8 points per game.
I'd be shocked.
I'd be shocked if he averaged more than 13 or 14.
Yeah, right.
He'd be coming off the bench.
His role's going to be different.
Yeah, his role would be different. He would be coming off the bench.
Cam Johnson coming off the bench would be great.
Yeah.
That would just, man.
It would be.
I would feel so much differently about the Kings if they had Cam Johnson coming off the bench.
I agree, but the cost is going to be Kevin Huerter. And if Kevin Huerter is playing like he was a week ago, then at the same time, you're like, okay, well, you're losing basically the same type of productivity.
I think you can make up for it. You have the offensive firepower to make up for it. I think what he adds defensively,
I agree,
would be extremely helpful. Let's get back out to the Elk Grove Kia talk line, 916-909-1320, 916-909-1320, and it's Don. Don, you are on the Insiders with Kyle and James. What's up? Hey, Don. If you're on the phone right now, I'm talking to you. What's up? Oh, that's my bad. Go ahead, Don.
Can you guys hear me?
Yep, I got you. I had the wrong thing turned on. We're good.
I was over here talking to myself. Anyway,
my bad.
The ongoing joke with Monty McNair has always been, what guard is he going to draft? And it's not really a joke anymore now that we've needed wing depth for I don't know how long. And so if he doesn't make a move and Kings kind of just keep going at the rate they're going and end up in the play-in, do you think his seat warms up at all, or just kind of see what he does this offseason?
Talking about Monty?
Yes, Monty McNair.
Perfect. Thanks for the call, Don. Appreciate you. Yes. I think every seat heats up in the building if they are a play-in exit again.
Or if they don't make the playoffs, I think every seat right now is already feeling it.
Yep.
I think every seat is already like,
Yep.
Like maybe not the seat, but you certainly your feet, you're starting to feel it. Like,
Yeah.
Okay, it's
Like-
getting a little warm up in here.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. So losing a game to Denver where you could have gone over 500, and like that's a big game. It's a big loss, and it's a big missed shot, and like all of it, it doesn't feel good for anybody. But specifically the guys who have built this team, the guys who are coaching this team, who are trying to piece this thing together and make something positive. It's a very, very
Man, that one hurt.
difficult situation.
That one hurt bad.
Yeah.
Luckily, got more winnable games.
That's right.
It's gotta go get them. All right. We were gonna shift gears, but now we gotta shift to pay some bills. We will do that. And when we get back, I'll tell you how the 49ers can still win the NFC West. Plus, it's an insane scenario. I'm excited to tell you all about it. Plus, my favorite NBA stat that I've been keeping track of. We'll get into that as well. With the handoff, I believe Kenny Caraway going to be in for the handoff today, coming up in about 20 minutes. That's James. I'm Kyle. We'll be back in a second here on ESPN 1320, Sacramento Sports Leader.
There's some good news. Grant Du Bois is expected to return home Wednesday after spending the past 3 days in the Houston hospital.
You cool if I run out real quick?
Yeah.
Thanks.
Oh, that's fine.
Oh.
I will eat this tiny chocolate muffin.
Oh, yeah. Shout out to Little Bites.
Little bite from Bomb. I think that might have been the last one. Although there could be something hiding in the fortress of Snackitude.
I didn't. I'm so paranoid about this. I can't wait till we have a producer.
What's happening, everybody? Tyler, did you get your sweatshirt? Yeah. I mean, like, look, Tyler, I'm kind of with, like, Carter brings some interesting things to the table. Aaron, I think all caps, like whatever. Stop screaming. Why won't the Kings trade for Kuzma Valanciunas? First of all, that's like $35 million in contracts, so you're going to have to give up a whole bunch to go get those two. Secondly, Kyle Kuzma is a very inefficient player. He also plays for a team that is horrific. Like, there is not a worse basketball team than the Washington Wizards, and they've been that way. They are 3-21 on the season. I think they've won one of their last 18 games. Like, they're not good. And so anything that I look at with Kyle Kuzma's stat wise, I'm just not sure that any of it translates to winning. And it's not that I think he's a bad player, but he chose to go back to that situation. And he chose to sign for the money because he could have been a Sacramento King before. So, look, it's possible that he would work as a bench scorer, but would he accept that role? At this point, if I'm him, I would take any role to get me the hell out of Washington. But the only reason I would really consider Kyle Kuzma at this point is because, number one, I think the Kings need scoring. Number two, I think you could probably get the deal done without Kevin Huerter being involved, although it would cost you the luxury tax. And number three, he's under contract at 23.5, 21.5, and 19.4 over the next 3 years. I think you could move his contract if you went and traded for him. He's a better scorer than Cam Johnson, more consistent scorer, but he is an inefficient scorer, and he's also not nearly the defensive player that Cam Johnson is. He's a better rebounder, though. I'll give him that. And his contract is very, very comparable. As far as Valanciunas, I dig Valanciunas, and I think that I think he signed a 3-year, $30 million deal. I would take him for 2 more years at $10 million apiece. Because he adds toughness, he adds rebounding. During the playoffs, it's going to be tough to play him. because you can't really play him alongside Sabonis. But that doesn't mean that I wouldn't at least consider that. But tough. I don't know. I'd have to figure out a deal with Kuzma. Like I haven't gone through and figured out I haven't done math on the Kuzma trade. But if they want a first round pick for Kyle Kuzma, I'm not giving it to him. It just straight up at this point. Kyle Kuzma is not worth a first round pick anymore. I'd give him a second or 2 seconds and matching salary. Let me take this team out. Again, like scoring wise, the Kings could really use a Kyle Kuzma off the bench. Let me see if I could come up with a deal that would make sense. Yeah, the Kings just don't have that many players that they can actually trade. No.
Sean Mahler brings up a great point. If the Kings had a guy like Giannis, they would be better off. I couldn't agree more.
Yeah.
It's a great take.
I would agree. Yeah. Without
this is a good one.
I think I would.
Is Fontecchio playing this year? Or is he a theory guy?
No, I think Fontecchio is.
I know the Jazz really liked him.
Simon.
18 minutes a night.
Simon Fontecchio.
6 and 3.
Oh.
Shooting 34.5% from beyond the arc.
Yeah. Boy, what happened to him? I mean, those stats look like he fell and hit his head.
He averaged 15 a night for the...
Well, 16 games, so. I kind of like Fontecchio and beef stew.
They're going to trade a second-round pick for Fontecchio, and that's going to be it.
Now, back to the Insiders with James Ham and Kyle Madsen, brought to you by Jiffy Lube on ESPN 1320.
Somebody said they saw a Kings trade idea where it was Herter and Lyles for Simone Fontecchio and Isaiah Stewart from the Pistons. And so we were looking at Fontecchio, who's struggling this season, shooting 39.2% from the field, averaging 6 points, 3 boards. He's shooting 34.5% from 3. Shot 40% from 3 on 5 attempts a game last year. But he's also 29 years old and going backwards, which isn't great.
He's 29?
Yeah, 29. The thing that bothers me with him, and the thing I can't get out of my head, is that he's the exact type of player the Kings would trade like a second-round pick for.
Just hoping
and
to
call
see if
it good.
Works. Yeah.
Like, yeah, we just threw this guy at the end of the bench. See how it goes. Love the Isaiah Stewart idea, though.
I don't think you want to be a poor man's Nemanja Bjelica.
Boy, you sure don't.
I mean,
I wouldn't hate to be Nemanja Bjelica.
I like Nemanja Bjelica.
But the off-brand Nemanja sounds tough.
But that's kind of what it is, right?
It sounds like it.
Like the generic version of.
Yeah. Yeah, 6'8", 210, just turned 29. Like, I don't, no. I'm out.
That's
I'm
tough. Oh, no, and he makes 7.7 this year and 8.3 next year.
Yuck. I'm out. I'm done with that
Oh.
trade. I don't want it anymore. I don't want that trade anymore.
Would you do Isaiah Stewart and Malik Beasley on a 1-year deal?
Oh, my God, yes.
Okay.
I love Malik Beasley, though.
I think he's a little odd. Like I don't know.
How so?
I don't know if he's like he's bounced around the league enough that you have to worry about like locker room type stuff.
Okay.
But I don't know. He can score.
Yeah, you can shoot the hell out of it.
Yeah.
And
And
Isaiah Stewart and Malik Beasley, for those two guys, I would do that.
Yeah, I mean, you're just gonna have to give them something, and I don't know. Like, I'm not giving up a first round pick in that deal.
No, I'm not I'm not either. I've been on the like F them picks train. I'm not doing it in that deal.
No, especially for a team that isn't like looking to get way better. They're looking to balance, and I don't know. That's
the other player we were talking about at the break. Kyle Kuzma has come up a couple of times. Somebody in the chat, I think it's our guy Aaron, in the chat wanted Jonas Valanciunas and Kyle Kuzma, get him in here. And we can talk about the merits of that, but it leads me to my favorite NBA stat of the year.
Okay.
The Washington Wizards, your Washington Wizards, are 3-21. And they started the season 2-2.
Yeah, they just don't care.
They're 1-19 since starting the season 2-2.
Yeah.
Here's my single favorite thing about their 21 losses. Of their 21 losses, their lowest margin of defeat, their closest loss of the year was 9 points.
Oh.
They lost to the Spurs 139-130 back on November 13th. That was their closest loss of the year. They just lost to the Celtics by 14. Before that, they lost to the Cavs by 10. Memphis by 28. They beat the Nuggets somehow. Jordan Poole went off in that game. That's what happened. They lost to the Mavs by 36. They lost to the Cavs by 31. It's just night in, night out. They're just getting mollywopped.
Oh, man. Yeah, but go ahead and trade for some of their players.
28-point loss, 20-point loss to the Pistons.
It's funny how you view players, though, right? Because if you take Cam Johnson stats, you take Kyle Kuzma stats, you put them side by side, you put their contracts side by side, all of it side by side. You feel so much better about Cam Johnson playing,
not even close,
playing for the Nets and fighting than you do Kyle Kuzma playing for the Wizards and being like part of the stink of that franchise on you.
Yes.
Like, I don't want this. That's part of it. Like, even Valanciunas going there, man, that's a risk. Yeah, you're getting the 3-year 30, but that's a risk because now you have the stink of that franchise on you. And like, what does that mean? Can you get another job? And I don't know. My question
with Kuzma specifically, I think Valanciunas would be fine. I think he'd be a really nice backup big.
Yeah,
you can start him. You can mess around starting him with Sabonis. That's fine. My issue with Kuzma is about whether he would be able to accept his role. And his role on this team would be probably a bench guy. He's very likely coming off your bench. Not going to play a ton of defense. A good scorer. You can put the ball in the hoop. But is he going to be willing to do that coming off the bench 20 minutes a night? And if he's not, is it more of a detriment than a help? That would be my, if I was going to trade, if the Wizards call and say, hey, we have this great deal for you. You take Kyle Kuzma and Jonas Valanciunas and your Monty McNair, it's a couple of second-round picks and the salary stuff that you need to match.
Carter Lyles, Colby Jones, Jordan McLaughlin, and you're right there.
Right, and let's say no picks, and you're like, hey, you know what? This makes us better.
Maybe a second or two.
I would need to sit down with Kyle Kuzma and like figure out, hey, this is your role. How do you feel about this?
Okay.
Because that's my concern.
I
Could
think
he, in a vacuum, help the Kings? Like, yeah, no doubt.
That would have been my concern any other year before this, that you're going to sit down with Kyle Kuzma and say, okay, look, what are you, can you fit in? I think right now Kyle Kuzma is like literally like a kid in the back seat of a car that's being abducted and like is writing "Help me" in fog on the window. Like, please get me out of here is where I'm. If I'm Kyle Kuzma, if he's not feeling that way, I don't want him at all. I don't want him anywhere near my team if he's not. Please get me.
I will take whatever role
now
to get out of Washington.
I promise I'll be good. Please get me out of here. Like, and not only that, but the other thing I'd say about Kyle Kuzma is because of his declining scale contract and the fact that he can score, I think you're always going to be able to trade him afterwards. Like, if we're looking at Kevin Huerter's value, like, he's got one more year on his contract than Kevin Huerter does, but the last year of his contract is $19 million. Like, you're seeing it like a very good declining scale contract that teams will go, okay, I would take 2 years of Kyle Kuzma in a trade that may or may not make me better. And I think he could come in and be like a very, very good super sub, like be that guy that, I mean, you'd play big minutes at the 3 and the 4. He can play both. Like, so I don't want to get talked back into Kyle Kuzma because I don't know why
think you're doing it right now.
Up. But like the Valanciunas thing, I'm like, okay, go get me with Valanciunas. I'm in because the athleticism, the strength, that just like he's a mean dude in the middle.
Yeah,
of
it gives you a little nastiness.
He does, and Valanciunas again. I don't think he's the player he was before, but he's also very close to Domantas Sabonis. They play for the Lithuanian national team together.
Sure.
Like these are dudes that know each other very well, that have played together before. I don't think you can steal more than like 2 or 3 minutes a half with both of them on the court. But maybe,
if you needed to try a 2 big lineup, I would way rather try Sabonis with Valanciunas than Sabonis with Len.
Yeah. I totally agree with that. Yeah. Well, that, and I think that you can have Sabonis shooting threes, like from the perimeter.
And Valanciunas will put him up too.
Yeah.
Yeah. I like the idea, but again, I would really need to make sure that Kyle Kuzma wants to take a bench role.
Yeah.
That would be my my greatest concern.
But do we
be a 6-man?
Do we have that concern with Cam Johnson? I don't.
Not as much. I think Cam Johnson has been. See, the thing is for me, like Cam Johnson has been in the role that he's been in, and he's been a role player his entire career. Kyle Kuzma has been this like, oh man, he could be. He's won a title, but B, he's been this kind of not mythical, but this, could he be the number 1 guy on a team?
Yeah.
Could he take on this bigger role? And that would be my concern there. But
okay.
Anyways, real quick, Kenny Caraway coming in for the handoff. I will get to that in just a moment. Matt Barrows from The Athletic tweeted this out today. And the 49ers odds, or chances, I should say, to win the NFC West aren't dead just yet. Here's all they need to win the NFC West. Ready?
Not quite dead yet.
First, they need to win out, which means you got to go to Miami and win. Then you have to host the Detroit Lions and win. And then you have to go to Arizona and win a game that Arizona might need to win the division. Okay. That's all you have to do. That's step 1. Step 2, you need the Seahawks and Rams to lose their next 2 games. The Seahawks play the Vikings and then the Bears. The Rams play, stand by. The Rams play
the Cardinals,
the Jets, and the Cardinals.
Yeah.
Perfect. And then you got
no, and then
no, and then there's one more, and then the Cardinals have to. Oh no, I'm sorry. The Seahawks and Rams have to lose their next 2 games and then tie each other in their season finale. And then the Cardinals have to lose or tie against the 3-11 Panthers at home on Sunday. That's all you need. Kenny Caraway here for the handoff.
You're telling me there's a chance.
I'm telling you there's a chance. Let's get all right.
You had me until the Rams played the Jets. And I was like, it ain't happening. Because to be honest with you,
the tying each other in the last game didn't.
No, that was after. That was after.
Oh, got it. Okay.
But everything you said before that, that could probably happen.
Well, that's why the
Niners could win out. The Seahawks could lose. At least Seahawks could lose out, but that wouldn't help. But
yeah.
And then you were like, oh, the Rams got to lose out, but they play the Jets, and I said, oh, damn.
That's why when going into Thursday's game, the Niners had like a 4% chance or whatever it was. Mm-hmm. And when you started looking at it, you go, okay, the Seahawks need to lose to the Vikings, and then they can beat the Bears. Mm-hmm. The Cardinals can beat the Panthers, and who'd they play last week? The Patriots. Yeah. They can win those 2 games. Man, the Rams can beat the Jets. Like, this isn't way out of the realm. And then Niners can lose 1 to the Dolphins or the Lions. Okay. And then they just 6 points.
The biggest, the story of the 49ers season, like, they haven't been great. Injuries, all this other stuff. But it really did come down to those really those 3 conference games or
Yep.
division games.
Yep, that's
that
it.
They should have won.
Yep.
They should have beat the Rams. They should have beat the Cardinals, and they should have beat the Seahawks again.
Yep.
And even then, like, you can make the argument they should have won on Thursday, but I won't even say that. I'm just saying the one at LA
Mhm.
that they were up 10 in the fourth quarter. Moody, or excuse me, not Moody. Well, he did miss a field goal. That's what
Ronnie Bell drop.
Ronnie Bell drop that would have gave you a game-winning field goal opportunity. The Cardinals game where you're ahead. Then wasn't it like you fell apart? You fumbled. Mason fumbled at the 10, at the Cardinal 10.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean, late in that game.
Yep.
And then wasn't it like 4th and 8, and Kyler is like backpedaling, turns without throwing, and it's just you could talk about how
not their year, man.
Yeah, you could talk about how bad they are, but there's so many signs where it's just like, hey, I don't want to say it's out of your control, but some of these things are just like, damn, like, what are you gonna do?
Yeah.
So,
the NFL's hard.
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah,
it's a difficult sport.
Kind of what it comes down to. Big conversation.
Chiefs.
Well, yeah.
Then you cannot be that good and still be 13-1.
I can't decide if I think they're going to lose in the first round or win the Super Bowl because of that. Like, are they going to get to the playoffs and play a bunch of playoff teams and it's like, all right, the luck has run out. The real Chiefs are here. They lost by 17 to the Bills. Or is it like, yeah, hey, the Chiefs stumbled and fell and fumbled and their way to another championship.
And they're getting healthy right now. You're watching.
Yeah.
The left tackle thing is a problem. And
the Mahomes thing might be a problem too.
Yeah, but the running back situation's gotten better. The wide receiver situation keeps getting better.
And they can get stops straight up. Soren Smith said Chiefs defense legit. They can get stops.
Defense is legit. But ironically, like, teams have kind of moved on them a little bit. Like the Broncos game, the Chargers game, like the Panthers game. Like, I think the Chiefs defense is still one of the tops in the NFL.
Yeah.
But even that is like, I want to say it's leaking oil, but you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Like, it's not as what it was in the first 3 weeks. Old E talks about Ronnie Bell dropping the ball. And I just think about Kyle Shanahan's reaction to that play.
Yeah.
Kyle couldn't believe. Kyle was all of us. He was right there in the TV screen, and he couldn't believe it.
I think it's because Kyle Shanahan knew that Ronnie Bell isn't very good at football.
He knew before we did.
He was only up that day because Debo wasn't.
Damn.
Like, that's
Kittle didn't play that game either, did he?
Correct.
Damn.
Yeah, man.
And Juwan Jennings had a career day.
Had a great day. Thing we've been talking about a lot today, and we have like 5 minutes here.
I was listening.
You putting Keegan Murray on the table for the right deal?
For the right deal, yeah.
Does it have to be? Because I used to say not on the table unless Jaylen Brown says I want out, and the Celtics say, okay, great, we want Keegan. Or Jaylen Brown or somebody like that. He's more on the table than that for me now.
Yeah, he is. And hear me when I say this. I'm not saying I definitely would make this trade, but I'm thinking about it like with a Brandon Ingram. I'm thinking about Trista had a proposed trade yesterday, and it was like too much. Like the totality of the trade was too much, but it really centered around Jeremy Grant and Keegan Murray.
Nah,
and I'm
not touching that.
I'm out.
Why not? Today is Jeremy Grant a better player than Keegan Murray?
Yes, today, yeah.
Do you think he's going to be a better player next year? I think, I like Keegan. I think he is personally.
Okay, so first of all, he's almost 31. Secondly, he makes so much money, it's ridiculous. Third, he doesn't rebound at all. And like, he's an inefficient scorer, shooting less than 40% from the field. Sure, he's shooting 38.4% from three. Like, he knows his job. I get that, but he's a huge defensive downgrade over Keegan. I'm not making that deal.
That's what
I don't know if he's a huge downgrade.
I think he's a little better defender than people give him credit for, maybe.
I think he's an all right defender, but he averages 3.6 rebounds per game.
Sure.
And for his career, he's at 4.
It's also a lot. Like, it financially ties you up.
Right.
Like, that's your move. Like, that's it. Like, now you have Jeremy Grant.
Right.
Yeah.
And that would be my hesitation more than, like, just in a vacuum, money doesn't matter. If that makes sense.
And the thought also, because you guys talked about it too, like Cam Johnson, 18 points a game, not happening here. In this role, as being like your third or fourth best player, is he better than Keegan Murray?
I don't think he's your third or fourth best player. I think he's your fifth, no matter what.
Yeah.
because I still
Keegan
think
might be your fifth right now.
Keegan's
Keegan
definitely
is.
your fifth.
Yeah,
Is he-
Keegan
It's
is
not
your
even
fifth.
close.
Yeah, is he better? Is he a better number 5 player than Keegan Murray?
I don't think so because he's not as versatile. He's not getting you the rebounds that you have to have because you have DeMar DeRozan as your small forward.
Yeah.
He's not as good a defender. He's not as strong a defender. I would have a tough time. And at $35 million a year, whatever it is, I'm not doing it. I wouldn't.
Well,
Jeremy Grant or Cam Johnson?
What
Jeremy Grant.
I agree.
the thing about that though is like we talking about right now, like you about to pay Keegan Murray a lot of money. Like he about to
Maybe.
get priced. Well, that now that's on the table, right? But like he about to get. It's cool right now when he's making X amount of dollars,
Right.
but you're a year away from saying the same thing. Like you giving me this for what I'm paying you.
Okay, so Jeremy Grant turned 31 this season. He's on the hook in his 32-year-old season at $32 million, followed by 34.2, followed by a player option at 36.4. No.
Oof.
The money definitely matters, but I think they're at least even as a ball player. Now Keegan's a better rebounder. I think they're closer defensively, but I think Jeremy Grant is a much more versatile offensive player.
I don't know that. Here's what I'll say, because you're going to be tied up financially with that move.
Mhm.
Like that's it. And trading Jeremy Grant away is not going to be a movable contract.
Mhm.
At least I don't think.
Mhm.
So my concern there would be, it's not, if Jeremy Grant is better, like by whatever metric, if he is, I don't think it's enough of an upgrade to take on that financial.
You're about
cost.
to be tied up though. You're
Well,
about to be tied up anyway.
I don't, but that's
Not
kind of
it.
the other aspect of the Keegan thing. I don't think they're paying Keegan 30 plus.
no, I don't think they are either. Not at this point.
Not
what
to
do
be
we-
not to be the fifth guy.
All right, so what are we holding on to him so tightly for?
Well, I mean, for
if
me,
you don't believe like he's that, if a year ago or whatever, we all thought like, hey, pay him like he's the future, and now we don't think that he's worth what all these other rookies are getting in their extension. And like, what are we holding on so tight for him for?
because he's not a number 2, number 3, number 2, number 3 scorer, that doesn't mean that he doesn't have a tremendous amount of value, especially
Sure.
to you as a franchise.
Yeah.
I just think
So-
the contract is going to have to look different.
Yeah. And hey, look, if I'm the Kings, I'm doing everything in my power to use the other assets that I have, whatever those might be, to leverage before I touch that starting 5.
Yeah.
To answer your question before we get out of here, I wouldn't do the Jeremy Grant deal or whatever. I wouldn't do all that other stuff, but Keegan is in the discussions now for certain players.
I think so. I think you're right. More of that coming up on D'Lo and
indeed.
KC.
Yep.
They're going to rock with you till 4. That's James Ham. I'm Kyle Madsen. We'll be back tomorrow at 10 a.m. right here on ESPN 1320. Sacramento Sports Leader. Until then, drink water and be nice, people.